back to Beer Fueled Fantasy Football. We are still Danless as we jump here into our Week 2 previews.
Nah, he's right there.
He's right there?
He's on the YouTube channel. He's right there. We just can't see him. Right.
Are you petting Dan right now?
I'm trying to. My hand's like going behind the image, but yeah, I'm trying to.
All right. Well, we are Beer Fueled Fantasy Football. Chris Hopper is here right next to me.
Oh, hey, how are you doing? At Hot BFF with 2 Ps. Little lack of energy thanks to some late night shenanigans last night, but we're gonna try to power through this one.
By the way, what was the game we were playing last night? It was
I don't know, but it involved werewolves and getting angry at people, so I was okay with it.
It was just something like Secret Werewolf or something like that. It was a lot of fun. I'm Nick Sparts, and then joining us to take over in Dan's place, we have a guest on today. We have Sam Lane at FF Stompy on Twitter. He's a writer for F3 Pod, IDP Guys, and FF Authority, so he's all over the place on the internet right now. And he's also an engineer and scientist trying to save the world.
There you go, trying to save the world.
What's going on, gentlemen?
So, and I think the first time I heard your voice is when we just did the pod with the mock draft with Father-Son Fantasy just the other day, correct?
Yes, sir.
So by the time this drops, I believe that came out last Friday. So you can check that out as well if you want to hear both of us doing a mock draft together.
Yep.
I think I'm in a league with you someplace. Maybe.
At this point, probably. We're in so many leagues.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt that. I've been joining them right and left here for the last few
Yeah, I've
weeks,
got 22 right now, I think.
I'm reaching that, so.
That includes best ball, though.
Yeah, we just finished up 2 drafts here, and I'm just about to kick off another 2 here in the next 48 hours.
I've got 2 every weekend after this weekend.
All right. Well, we'll try to get through all that. So we got a long episode for you today. Right before we do that, though, reminder, it's at BeerFueledFF if you want to follow us on Twitter. That's also our Instagram and Untapped handles if you want to follow us there. And for YouTube or Facebook, it is Beer Fueled Fantasy Football if you want to be able to see the Dan graphic that Hopper put together.
It's just Dan's face and it's his Twitter avatar just sitting over his chair, just kind of hovering there.
Okay. I would have preferred the plate of waffles myself, but...
You know, you're asking way too much of me today.
All right. So today's episode, we're going to go ahead and run through all the news that's happened in the last 48 hours since we last recorded. Or 72 hours. Was it Thursday? Forget.
Yeah, it was Thursday.
So the last 72 hours, we'll go through all of that. We're going to cover 5 of the games that happened so far in Week 2. Hopper and I are going to break those down with some help from Sam, and then we're going to go ahead and talk some guys who are rising and sliding down our rankings after the first couple weeks of preseason here. But before we do all that, we got a beer preview for you guys.
Beer Fuel.
And my notes are 6 pages long, so this will be a busy episode.
Oh, yeah.
We've got Fleeting by Triptych Brewing on. This is their 3rd time we've had them on. They're a favorite of the show. Hopper and I have both been to their brewery. I think Hopper has been there 5 times.
Yeah, I was there 3 weeks ago.
They're based out of Savoy, Illinois, which is just outside of Champaign. And Fleeting is a hazy and fluffy IPA, which I'm not quite sure what that means.
I don't know either. And I after tasting it, I still don't know. But
so I'm confused about that that term, but that is in the description. It clocks in at 7.3%. We'll drop a full review for you guys once you get through all the preseason recaps.
All right. News?
It is news time.
News.
You give me the show notes in the order that things are going to happen, and we've been doing this for 160-ish episodes, and I still don't know.
Yep, it's like to keep me on my toes sometimes. All right, for news, we're going to go run through, as always, starting with quarterback position. A.J. McCarron suffered a broken collarbone in the Bills' second preseason game against the Browns. Now, this is actually going for a second opinion because some of the tests were inconclusive, so this may not be the final results of this diagnosis, but that is the initial report we got.
I haven't seen the Bills play in preseason yet, but you've heard things about Josh Allen, things about Nathan Peterman. Mixed bag on both of them. So
I have watched the Bills in preseason, so we'll talk about that in later this episode.
Cool.
Carson Wentz has been cleared for 11-11 team drills. We've been waiting for this for the last couple of weeks.
Good. Now let's see him do it, and let's hope he can get into a preseason game before
he's
he
not.
won't.
He's not.
Oh, they already did come out and say it wouldn't. Yeah, we'll see if he's ready.
Just in time for Nick Foles to hurt himself. So
he's back at practice already.
Okay, that's
Foles
good.
Is.
Yep, he did hurt his shoulder in the preseason game. It was not expected to miss extended time, and the report is that he was going to be back at practice
It's
today.
just on a strip sack. It looks like it got hit weird, and it, wrenched his arm back, but it's okay. Could have been a lot worse.
Probably swell up a little bit and didn't feel too great.
I'm imagining.
Samaje Perine is expected to miss at least a week with a sprained ankle he suffered on Thursday's preseason game against the Jets.
It was a good run, too. Big hole, chunked off some yardage, immediately hurt himself. Him and Marlon Mack.
All right, I'm doing a little bit of editor's choice here to switch this up here. Because of this injury paired with the Geis ACL strain, they brought in Orleans Darkwa and Jamal Charles to work out on Sunday, and then Adrian Peterson is going to work out on Monday for them.
If you're a running back looking for a job, call Washington because they're working everybody out right now.
Yeah, so if you are a running back who has played in the NFL and listening to this show, shout out to you for doing that and go try out for the Redskins, I guess.
Or if you just have aspirations to be an NFL running back, go try out for the Redskins. Unless you're Matt Jones.
Isn't he on the Eagles or something right now?
Yeah, and he looked like dog shit.
He can't catch a ball for his life right now, so.
He can't run for his life right now either.
Or that.
All right, Jamal Williams has been diagnosed with a quote-unquote minor ankle sprain. The quotes were in there by Roto World.
Hey, Jamal Williams, have you met Samaje Perine? Or Adam Shaheen? Or
yeah, just ankles everywhere. Thankfully, they have, as far as I know, none of them have been a serious ankle injury.
Yeah, so far.
Athletics' Jeff Howe reports Rex Burkhead is dealing with a slight tear in his knee and is expected to be a minor issue and should play through it. He did return to practice this morning, and today's Sunday.
All right, so
this is going to make Jeremy Hill something now. So
Jeremy Hill did look like the best pure runner that they had. James White looked fantastic. We'll talk more about that later in the show, but Jeremy Hill looked like the best pure runner that they have. But Rex Burkhead, you just hope it doesn't linger. He doesn't do more damage to it. I'm assuming they would be more precautious with him if they were at all worried about it. But if this lingers and bothers him throughout the season, it's just something to keep an eye on.
I mean, they have had him on the shelf for like the last 12 days or something, so they have been pretty cautious with it.
That's true.
Josh Gordon has reported to Browns training camp, but apparently has not been cleared to start practicing yet.
He hadn't been cleared to start. He was on the sidelines and stuff earlier today, but wasn't practicing.
Yeah.
Said he was in great shape, though. What does he need clear? Oh, conditioning, I'm guessing.
No, he needs clearance from the league.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought we were over this. I
didn't know the league was involved.
That was something I read on when I was browsing Reddit earlier today, is that he still gets to get cleared from that list before he can practice.
Oh, okay.
So I think they would have handled that immediately if he'd reported at the start of training camp, and now they have to just take care of it now. Cleveland Plain Dealer reports the Browns are not expected to sign free agent Des Bryant, so I think the reading of the tea leaves here is they use Des Bryant as leverage to get Gordon to come back.
I mean, that or just it was an insurance policy in case Gordon didn't come back, and Gordon said, oh, crap, this guy might take my job. I better come back.
Yeah, I think this is a bunch of posturing, and I don't think they had a ton of interest in signing Des unless he was real cheap.
Yeah.
Packers wide receiver Jay Kumaro, who's been kind of a preseason all-star here, has been diagnosed with a sprained SC joint in his injured shoulder.
Is that next to the AC joint?
I would assume so.
They're next to A and S are next to each other on a keyboard. That's the logic I used there. Jake Kumaro, though, has looked like the best wide receiver not named Cobb or Adams in preseason. So definitely something to keep an eye on there, because I thought that he could, from what he's shown, that he could leapfrog Geronimo Allison. He's looked better than EQ. He's looked better than Yancey. He's looked better than Valdez Scantling to at least get some target share in that offense. So you hope it's nothing that's going to linger or bother him or keep him out of action.
All right, so doing some physiology research here just now. The SC joint is the spot where your shoulder runs up and meets your neck.
Okay.
As opposed to the AC joint, which is your rotator cuff.
Oh, so he'll be all right.
Yeah, it's probably just going to be real tough for him to move and probably breathe for a while.
Breathing's not necessary.
Yeah, anything in kind of that neck chest area is real rough on movement for a long time. I wrecked my sternum when I was playing college and high school, and that sucked.
Yeah, so breathing not necessary, just catch footballs.
Yes, the arm should be okay. Bears tight end Adam Shaheen is believed to escape Sunday night's injury with a low ankle sprain. He was carted off, so it was feared to be significantly worse than that. If it's just low ankle, he may play week 1.
Hammer the brakes on the Trey Burton hype.
Yeah, people were.
Boy, I saw a lot of that hype going on yesterday.
Yeah, because I think Shaheen is one of the biggest barriers to Burton.
Burton being top, jumping Evan Ingram, honestly.
Nah, he still wouldn't jump Ingram to me. He's not nearly as athletic.
Oh, he would for me. Just volume.
You've been a consistent Evan Ingram hater, though.
I'm not really an Evan Ingram hater. I'm a Sterling Shepard and Odell Beckham and Saquon Barkley exist realist.
Yeah, he's still my tight end 7. So
There's no way he falls out of the top 8 or 9. So.
All right, and then last note I've got here, usually we wouldn't cover offensive lineman news, but it's a first-round offensive lineman who tore his Achilles. So Patriots first-round offensive lineman Isaiah Wynn tore his Achilles. He's out for the 2018 season. He's expected to be kind of the primary swing backup for the Patriots. So if any injuries happen to this line, that's when depth could start to become an issue for him.
Yeah, just keep an eye.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's all I've got for news. Let's go ahead and start recapping preseason 2.
Should probably get the drop up.
What the hell happened?
All right, we'll do these as we've done the last couple of episodes where one person's going to take point on each of these, and then any other either comments if the other people have watched these games or any questions you guys have, just shoot them out at us, and we'll just try to get those questions answered for you as best we can. So starting off with the Giants at the Lions, I'm going to take this one. Giants won this one 30-17. Kicking it off with the Giants, Stewart was the first back in, did very little with his touches. He had multiple negative plays, including his first 2 carries. He looks old and slow at this point.
So do you think that he hangs around just because Gettleman's there, or do you think that they jettison him?
He could be jettisoned because, as my next 2 notes here, there was 2 backs that played after him that looked significantly better. Mainly Wayne Gallman. He looked significantly better in the receiving game. He had 2 nice touchdowns. One was rushing, one was receiving. He did play into the 4th quarter, so he's kind of trading off with Robert Martin after he finished up the first team work. But overall, Gallman was the most impressive back that I saw on the field from the Giants, and he looked like a competent runner and way better than I was expecting based on his college tape from last year.
That's even last year he flashed better than
we were expecting.
And we were expecting.
Yeah,
so.
But I mean, really, is he anything more than a handcuff at this point?
Yeah, this would be super deep kind of dynasty stash. Okay. Or just kind of a name to know in case anything did happen to Barkley, right, like it already has, and he's being held out right now. And then the third named running back that was in was Robert Martin. He also flashed a bit. He had 2 very long, nice carries, including one that he bounced outside and got into the end zone. He looked significantly more dynamic than Stewart, so I could see him pushing for the running back 3 role with Stewart if Gettleman's willing to jettison Stewart from this team.
Just got to keep performing, though.
Yep. Quarterback play was better in this game than it was in week 1. Webb and Lalletta both had some nice throws. Lalletta had an awesome touchdown run, which Lamar Jackson should take some notes from. He basically he ran to the outside and then cut back against the grain, juked everyone out of their shoes, and ran into the end zone with very little athleticism to make it happen, too.
How'd the arm strength look? Was everything underneath? Was he going downfield?
He was making some attempts downfield, but if he was trying to hit more than about 15 yards out, the accuracy got a little spotty.
Okay, so college.
Yeah, like that's exactly what we saw on tape. So
yeah, he was always kind of viewed as a more underneath passer, kind of accurate West Coast style passer anyway.
Right.
Receivers mostly quiet. Shepard had 1 nice deep catch, and Ingram had multiple short catches that he was able to extend for either close to first downs or first down conversions. So both of them flashed a little bit in limited work. And then looks like Sam dropped a note here about Eric Flowers being a turnstile, and that was definitely the case.
Yeah.
How do they not have a better option than Eric Flowers? How is a backup not outperforming him?
Their depth may just be that bad.
Right, and I think it was the entire right side of that line. The guard, I can't remember his name now. They were just giving up pressure all night.
Yeah, left side looked fine.
Well, it's because they invested in the left side. They went out and got Solder, and then they drafted Hernandez.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the right side was a sieve.
So at the very least, they're not on their weak side, so they can see that pressure coming and get out.
Yeah.
All right, so that was all I had on the Giants. Anything else you guys had questions on?
No, not for the Giants.
All right.
They're pretty clear cut.
All right, moving on to the Lions. Running backs rotated in and out for most of the game with no real order. Abdullah was in first, then Johnson, then Blunt. They all played from the first through third quarters. None of them looked really good. Abdullah had a fumble on a handoff, though it was technically credited to Stafford. Johnson did very little. Blunt looked like LeGarrette Blunt.
Which sounds like it may be better than the other two. Blunt looking like Blunt at least wins Super Bowls.
Yeah, he did fail on a short conversion play, though, where he wasn't able to convert the first down. He had a drop pass, too. So it was very just mediocre all around for those 3.
So you kind of have to wonder at what point do you stop blaming the running backs and start blaming the offensive line here?
Well, and I actually made a note at the bottom there. with the investments they made this year, especially with Frank Ragnow, there was an expectation, and I think PFF even graded them top 10, that their line would get better, and there's a big concern there.
Could be a cohesion thing too. We saw it with the Browns last year too, where their line was supposed to be very, very good and was not. So
yeah, it was good on paper, but never actually materialized. And part of that's too just kind of personnel scheme, and there's other ways that can be not up to snuff.
And just learning to play together when you bring new people in.
Yeah, so on the other hand, Triptych was awesome. He only played the first half and was done. He was easily the best playmaker. He took a circle route for 40 yards, had a couple nice carries between the tackles, and he was out after the second quarter. So he came in, flashed, did what he was supposed to do, and got out of there.
So basically par for the course for the last 5 years, basically.
Yeah.
Basically.
And I've seen Triptych basically go undrafted at this point. So if you're like, hey, I just need another running back that I might have to plug in a couple weeks, he's a great guy to just grab late.
Him and Gio Bernard.
Right. You're looking at like RB5 at the most prices, and he's been in RB3, I think 3 of the last 4 years or something like that. So.
And I think it's 4 out of 4 if you go by a per game basis. Quarterback play was a complete mess. Stafford, Rudock, Castle all got sacked multiple times. Castle was so bad they benched him and went back to Rudock in the fourth quarter.
So Rudock's got the backup job, but again, my offensive line comment stands.
Yeah, and neither Rudock or Castle looked good.
Right.
Pressure. They both just were mad. They both got strip sacked at least once. They both were struggling with any sort of pressure that got in their face. Receivers were mostly quiet. 1 catch each for Jones and Galladay. Nothing for Tate. Galladay did draw pass interference on a key third down play. But not a lot from any of the receivers here. It was mostly them trying to run the ball and not doing very well at it. Last note I got was on the tight ends. Michael Roberts and Luke Wilson both played into the fourth quarter. They had one nice play in the fourth quarter against like the backups of backups. Competition doesn't appear to be over, but based on what I've seen from both of them, I don't think there's a significant role in the offense for either one.
No, and from an athletic standpoint and just from the way those guys are built, like we mentioned Michael Roberts a couple months ago, but I mean, really, he's built and athletically profiles as more of a blocker as well, just like Wilson does.
Yeah, so...
Well, but Wilson was an athletic freak coming out, wasn't he?
I don't remember.
I don't
for
recall.
Sure.
I think he was a 98th percentile SPARQ score.
Yeah, I hate SPARQ score.
Yeah, you're going to make a Hopper out of here. Let me pull up his player profile.
If it doesn't translate to the field, I don't give a damn, and it hasn't translated to the field yet.
No, yeah, Luke Wilson is an absolute... He's 74th percentile or higher in everything, and he's 90 percentile or higher in almost everything.
Yeah, so is Virgil Green.
This is true.
How's that worked?
All right. Yeah, Stonehand's Virgil over here.
But yeah, so, I mean, Wilson, we've seen flash plays from him before, but he's never put it together, and he's had opportunities.
Yeah, and he's struggling against 4-stringers.
So I see some notes here. You mentioned, Sam, that you saw 2 wide receiver sets with Jones and Galladay.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. I don't know if that's kind of a future thing or if that's what we're looking at for the coming year. But yeah, Tate wasn't really on there with those two wide receiver sets, so that was interesting.
I wonder if they could have been were those passing plays or was it more running plays they were doing that?
I think it was kind of a mix. I'd have to look back and look at it. I didn't really. It was just interesting to see that personnel on there.
Yeah, because kind of my first thought that jumps into my head is if they're going to go to a 2 wide receiver set like that and they go to the 2 bigger receivers, maybe they're trying to use them more as blockers.
Yeah, that might be.
So that's why that's just kind of popped in my head. I didn't notice it, so I wouldn't be able to give you an answer one way or the other. But yeah, and then we already mentioned some of the offensive line struggles where this unit is not performing up to what we'd expected from it.
Right.
All right.
With that, where was the pressure coming from? I guess I just didn't.
It was coming around both tackles.
Was it? Okay.
It wasn't consistent. So yeah, they were just struggling with edge rushing. I didn't notice as much up the middle, so maybe they figured out the center and guard situation.
Not if they can't run up the middle.
Yeah. No, run blocking and pass blocking are 2 different things.
They are.
Decker struggled last year, so maybe he just hasn't figured it out.
Yeah, he was such a promising rookie. I wonder if we have another Matt Khalil thing on our hands here.
No, that'd be rough.
All right. Moving on, though, we got Eagles at the Patriots. Patriots win this one 37-20. Hopper, why don't you kick us off with whichever team you want to start with?
I'm going to go ahead and start with the Patriots. So looking at the running back situation here, which is something we're definitely keeping an eye on given all the injuries and just the bodies in this backfield. James White was getting reps with the first team. The first teamers for the Patriots played through the first half. Brady came out earlier in the week and kind of chastised receivers, so I think they're trying to get them all reps. But James White looked really good. 2 receptions and a nice run on the first drive. He took a screen to the house. He was dynamic as a pass catcher. He looked good as a runner. He was getting carries because there was really nobody else at that point in time to do it. When the second team came in, you ended up with a healthy dose of Mike Gillislee, who did absolutely nothing, and then Jeremy Hill looked like the best pure runner out of the group. Outside of James White, basically. So he continued to do enough, I think, to earn a roster spot, especially over Mike Gillislee. Also for the Patriots, Cordero Patterson looks like he's deadly in the screen game. He had 2 touchdowns, or should have had 2 touchdowns. One got called back because he barely towed the line, but they were using him in the screen game, and he was chunking away yardage in that. So something to keep an eye on. Probably not for redraft, but if you're still drafting best ball, that may not be a bad depth receiver to add. He could have a couple big games, especially in that offense.
Or if you're in any sort of return yard league, he may actually be viable for you.
Yep. Or if they just find out that they need him with Hogan out, or not Hogan out, but with Hogan being injury prone and Edelman missing the first 3 games. So
4 games, and then it's Dorsett didn't do anything in either preseason game so far. Britt hasn't been able to get healthy. They've already cut Mitchell,
and Decker was running with the third team and had another bad drop.
Ugh.
Yeah, so he's been struggling all camp.
Yeah, so he's looked terrible. So Cordero Patterson could be a dart throw here. That's about all I got on the Patriots. Rob Ninkovich hates the wave. He was announcing the game and started to chastise Gillette Stadium for that. But other than that, it was pretty mundane. Tom Brady was spreading the ball around. He looked accurate, like you'd expect from him. So, anything else on the Patriots before we move on, Sam? I know you had some notes. I'm not Nick. I'm not nice to read
I mean, I think we were in sync there. The only thing I have on James White is he's kind of teasing again. Every year for me, it's like, oh yeah, he's going to be great, and then his usage is all over the place. So I don't know if you can trust him, but then again with the injuries, you might have to this year.
Usually in half or full PPR as a flex option, I will trust him as a flex or a 4th running back. I'll trust him, and you can get him there. So,
and by the way, I've picked Jeremy Hill now twice in two different leagues.
Yeah,
I hate myself.
I did too. I mean, moving on to the Eagles, Jay Ajayi is running very tough. He looks like a force. Really wasn't giving away touches to anybody. Clement and Sproles did not play, so there's something to keep an eye on. Neither did Jeffrey or Aguilar again. So they're void most of their starters, sans the tight ends. But he looked really good. He's going to get a bump up from me here when I do the next rankings refresh from an efficiency standpoint. Nate Sudfeld, he looked better than average. Great throw out of his own end zone to Gibson for 57. Also a beautiful pass under pressure to Richard Rodgers and another beautiful pass down the sidelines for a touchdown. He looked like if for some reason Wentz isn't ready week 1 and Foles is still bothered by the shoulder, if for some reason they have to go to Sudfeld, they're not going to be dead in the water. He showed me enough in that offense to where he really, really flashed. The defense, one thing I noticed from them, if you're still in a league that has full defenses, they're playing with a ton of attitude, like the type that's just going to dominate Sundays. A lot of bad penalties, but they looked like they were just taking control of the game. The Eagles defense did. Other than that, though, not really a whole lot to notate there either. Wendell Smallwood looked like crap. Like I said, Sproles and Clement didn't play. Nothing really from the wide receivers. Goddard did Dallas Goddard things, and that's about all there was for them. So not really a whole lot to take away there, other than Sudfeld's okay at football, and Ajayi looks better than I expected.
And then the only other player not mentioned there, Shelton Gibson, was mentioned by Sam.
I mentioned him on the touchdown pass, at least. I didn't give a stat line, but he did catch a 57-yarder from Sudfeld.
Yeah, and then he had I think it was a red zone touchdown was the second one to catch, right? Yeah, he's actually flashed okay. We've seen nothing from Matt Collins at all, and I think Gibson is kind of locked down the number 4 role at this point for the wide receiver position, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, moving on to a less exciting game. We'll move on to the Bills at the Browns. Bills win this one 19-17. Starting with the Bills side, A.J. McCarron was forced quarterback in. He didn't convert a single first down while he was the quarterback. He looked like a mess before fracturing his collarbone. And I think he actually technically played through it from what I saw, because I saw the hit where I thought it happened. And then he was in for another drive.
I mean, if it was inconclusive, maybe he did.
You think he regrets asking for his free agency now?
Yeah, probably. He's had a rough go of it. He made some money, though. I don't think he completely regrets it.
Yeah, that's all right.
So he looked very rough. Josh Allen was in second, and he immediately marched the Bills down and scored a touchdown. He was the most impressive of the three, and based on what I've seen through 2 games, I think he should start week 1 at this point.
I agree.
He's got some struggles. He'll completely miss throws, but on the flip side, he can step up and force balls into windows that no one should be able to do.
It's exactly what we saw in college, and you have to take the bad with the good from him and hope that he kind of learns from it. It's kind of the Pat Mahomes thing that we're seeing also. You've got to take the bad with the good.
Yeah, and his touchdown throw was a thing of beauty where he evaded pressure, stepped up, and hit a guy at the back line of the end zone for a 2-yard touchdown pass. So that was an excellent play. Overall, Allen's looked good. Peterman came in. He was significantly worse than he was in week 1. Struggled with pressure. He made a few dumb decisions trying to make plays happen. He got better the longer he was in, but it looked like he was struggling against worse competition than he saw in week 1. So overall, I would say Allen was the best. Peterman was 2, and McCarron was a dumpster fire. Shady McCoy only saw a couple touches, didn't do much with him, but the running back who kind of caught my eye was Marcus Murphy. He continues to look awesome. Handful of nice runs and an excellent punt return. I did see one drop from him, but he looks way more dynamic than Chris Ivory, who he's splitting work with. I think Murphy may lock up the number 2 spot here.
Wow.
He's been catching a lot of hype, too.
Yeah, he looks way better.
It's a name I've heard a ton, even though I have yet to watch the Bills in preseason.
Yeah,
also.
Dan was hyping him up after week 1 as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, of Ivory and Murphy, those are the two that I think Murphy's the one I'd put my money on as just being able to win this job over the season. And then the only competent pass catcher I saw was Nick O'Leary. Clay didn't play. Zay Jones had a single catch. Benjamin had a couple targets, didn't do anything with them. They weren't great targets from McCarron. So overall, the only one who really flashed for me was O'Leary. He had multiple nice plays, including one where he ran through 3 tackles for some extra yardage, and then one where he leaked out, caught a wide open pass, and ran it all the way to the end zone. So great play overall for Nick O'Leary. So if anything does happen to Clay, Nick O'Leary is a competent backup behind him. And then concerns on the Bills' O-line was mentioned here by Sam. Just a lot of negative plays for the running backs. And you put bad news from McCoy, ? And I think McCoy is going to have a rough time. We saw what he could do. He still looked like old McCoy when he got into space, but he was struggling to do that on a lot of his carries early.
Well, and I just wonder, though, because who started the first preseason game?
At running back? I think it was Ivory.
McCoy. No, sorry. At QB.
It was Peterman.
Okay, so I don't know if changing over to Allen changes anything, but I think at this point we have to hope that Allen's, arm maybe scares defenses into not putting 8 in the box.
Well, I'm a little less concerned about McCoy also, just because even if the running room isn't there, he's dynamic enough to where you can put him outside of the tackles, you start running him to the edges, and you can find ways to get him into space.
Right.
And if you're any sort of PPR league, you should be hitting enough targets to help kind of give him a floor at least, even if some of the games are going to be real ugly for you.
Exactly.
So I've lowered my expectations on McCoy this year, paired with the off-field issues and the offensive line concerns.
There's still a ton of people low on him, though, to where I still think he's a value.
Oh, yeah. They have people who are putting him down in like the 4th and 5th round, and he's definitely should not be going there.
Wow.
All right. Any other questions on the Bills?
Nope.
All right.
Let's go to the Browns.
Moving over to the Browns side, Carlos Hyde got significant work in this one, was excellent between the tackles. He had multiple nice runs, including a nice touchdown run. Still struggled in the passing game. So the volume that he was getting last year in San Francisco, I think, was just the way that offense was working with C.J. Beathard.
The peripherals weren't necessarily good on him last year in San Francisco either in a passing game. It was just pure volume. So
I expect him to go back to being his classic 2-down thumper self. Don't expect a lot of pass catching.
That's what Duke Johnson's there for.
Yeah, but he reminded us that he can be a pretty good runner between the tackles, so there may still be some good value here, especially if he can continue to hold off Nick Chubb. Moving on to Duke Johnson. He came in second. He was very impressive. He showed actually some running chops between the tackles as well, reminding us that he also isn't a shabby runner himself. He can make some hay between the tackles, in addition to being one of the best pass catchers in the game out of the running back position. So at the minimum, I expect Hyde Johnson are going to minimum split. For fantasy owners, that's what we want, is those two splitting. and Chubb being held off by the two of them. Chubb came in third. He had a much better second week, though. He had multiple nice runs, and he had a short touchdown that he was able to convert bang in for a touchdown. He did take a couple negative plays again, but he was much better than he was in week 1.
Was he just getting blown up in the backfield, or could he just not find space?
He was getting hit before he could get to the line.
Slow or offensive line problems?
They were still running him out of shotgun a lot, and then sometimes somebody would get in before he'd even get a shot.
Yeah, you can't run him out of shotgun. That's not what he's built for.
He was making some better plays out of shotgun this week, though.
Yeah.
So he was adjusting. So I saw progression out of Chubb. The concern here is going to be is if Chubb progresses enough that this turns into a 30-30-40 type split.
Yeah, because then you don't want anybody.
Yep. And that's kind of what we've been warning people about, that Chubb is talented enough, and Hyde and Johnson are also good enough that there's enough talent here that they may just rotate all three of them. And then that sucks for everybody.
So Nick Chubb is more, I mean, and I think we all knew this, that he's more of a dynasty stash than anything, or a dynasty pick than anything.
Yeah, I love him in dynasty. He's my 103 in rookie drafts, but I've not touched him in a single redraft league at this point. All right, moving on to the quarterbacks. Baker and Tyrod both struggled more in this one. Both had some issues with pressure. Baker got better the longer he was in, but early on he was struggling with getting hit or not being able to avoid pressure properly. He was just kind of flashing some more of his capability later that he was in, but both were struggling more with that there. They were both significantly less accurate than they were in the first game. So just some growing pains from the offense, and it seems like the Bills' defense was better than what they saw week 1. And then on the receiving game, no one really flashed. They almost were exclusively running the football. So this game was almost strictly on the ground. I saw very little productive passing going on from either team.
I know Baker had one good throw that came back, or was called back because the receiver's knee hit out of bounds. But
yep, it was. I forget. It was number 83. I don't remember what the player's name was, but he caught it and he couldn't get 2 feet down, and his knee just barely hit out of bounds instead of landing in bounds, which would have made it a touchdown.
But yeah, that was probably the best.
Yeah, that was,
I guess, most noteworthy pass that I saw.
Yeah, it was a great play by Baker. Just unfortunately, the receiver couldn't make it happen for him. All right. Any other questions on the Browns here?
No, sir.
All right, let's jump on to Game 4. We've got Jets at the Redskins, another low-scoring affair. Redskins win this one 15-13.
All right, I'm going to start out with the Redskins. So Rob Kelly has 0 burst. He had a decent catch on a slant route, but other than that, no burst, no room to run. He continues to look terrible. Samaje Perine, on the other hand, showed some good burst on his one run before he got hurt, so you can't really make a lot of judgments from that. The guy that really stuck out on for Washington to me, though, was Cam Sims. He had 2 catches over defenders. One should have been a touchdown, but a formation penalty had it called back. But he showed great jump ball ability, great ability to work downfield. So he's competing for a depth spot on this team. You had Trey Quinn, who was out with Doxson and Richardson on the first team offense. Crowder wasn't playing, but Trey Quinn also looked good, but they need a fourth, and Cam Sims was playing a man's game, so just somebody to keep an eye on going through the last 2 weeks of the preseason. Other than that, Alex Smith looks like he's been in the offense for a couple of years. I didn't see any real growing pains there. He had good command of it. He was making good on-time throws. Running game is going to be a concern, but the line was holding up well, so I don't really have a whole lot else to say on Washington. So anybody got anything to add before we move on to the Jets?
In terms of the backfield, I think a dark horse, I don't know if he'll take over, but Capri Bibbs showed something last year. He showed he's dynamic. I guess in this game he had 7 catches for 47 yards. Wasn't great on the ground, but he was pretty good in the first preseason game. So he's a guy to keep an eye on.
He sparked a little bit. It wasn't like a flash. It was like a little bit of a spark. Like he didn't light it up. It was like if Capri Bibbs is a lighter, it was like little spark you get when it doesn't actually light the first time. So
right.
And
then I was surprised they cut Marquez Carter.
Yeah.
Or Martez Carter. He actually didn't look bad, but he got injured and was waived on the whatever that cut is.
The waive with injury designation.
Yeah. That one.
So he had one really good run, and then he had a couple others that were just kind of okay.
They may try to stash him on IR as well if the injury's this early in the season. They sometimes team just with young players just avoid the headache and just IR them so they can free up the roster spot. So what you guys are saying about Bibbs, though, it sounds like he may be more of a if anything happens to Chris Thompson play.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
and that Chris Thompson not being 100%. Also, you gotta keep that in mind. Also, my hope, honestly, is that because I don't see any of the guys that they're bringing in to work out is a solution there. AP was crap, except for the one game last year. Jamal Charles flashed some in Denver, but it was in a limited role. So who was the third guy that they brought in?
Darkwa.
Oh, yeah. Darkwa would be the most intriguing one if they decided to sign him, because I do think he showed enough with New York last year to where he could at least be serviceable. It wouldn't be sexy, but it would be serviceable.
Yeah, if you had Darkwa as a low-end flex player by week fill, and I'd be happy with that if he was starting on that team.
Yeah, but Samaje Perine right now, given what's on their roster, with the ACL tear to Geis, I mean, he looks like the better out of him and Rob Kelly again. So the ankle injury is not serious, and he can continue to chunk off some big runs and look better than he did last year. Then you could have a dark horse there.
Well, and I think he got a raw deal because that line, and we've all heard it, had just injury issues up and down. You get guys literally pulled off the street. So can we really blame Samaje for last year? Probably a little bit, but I think he deserves that second chance.
Yeah, you can. I don't have the notes in front of me, but I deep dove it also, and just the amount of times that Washington was playing either injured linemen or backup linemen was absolutely absurd. I think there were 3 games in total where the starting offensive line was intact and not crippled.
And those were probably the first 3 games of the season.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, if they're healthy and he gets another chance, he actually might show decently this year.
I think so.
All right. Anything else on the Redskins?
Nope.
All right, let's hit up the Jets.
All right, moving on to the Jets, starting with the quarterback position. Sam Darnold looked like a rookie to me. He had some safe throws that were pretty on the money. He was holding the ball too long. He was taking sacks. He threw 1 bad interception. So I don't want to say that he looked bad. It's just that, to me, he looked like a rookie high draft pick. He was making the throws he was supposed to make. He did some boneheaded stuff. He had some problems sensing pressure, but, overall, I wouldn't say that it was a crap outing. Teddy Bridgewater, on the other hand, he looked really good. He was good extending plays. He did have 1 bad throw. I mean, he looked like Teddy. He looked better than Sam Darnold to me, though. Mm-hmm. But he was keeping plays alive with his feet, moving the pocket, keeping his eyes downfield, doing things that you got used to Teddy doing. Trey McBride flashed on 2 nice catches with some yak. He was really the only, not the only wide receiver to me. But he was the wide receiver that jumped out most to me in this. And he flashed a little bit with the Bears last year also. So with opportunity there, there was no Enunwa. Robbie Anderson, I think, played late. Like, I first saw Robbie Anderson in the 3rd quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
For whatever reason.
They may be having him this may be similar to like a punishment type situation too.
Yeah, so... but not a whole lot of takeaways there. I mean, there's still not really a wide receiver on the Jets that I'm necessarily comfortable with owning. You've got no Terrell Pryor flashes. He's MIA. You've seen really no Robbie Anderson. Quincy Enunwa hasn't played. I mean, Trey McBride, Chad Hansen showed up, sort of. So I would just steer clear of that. And Bilal Powell looked like Bilal Powell. I saw a lot of hype showing up around him. You're like, oh, this is why this is why this. To me, Bilal Powell looked like Bilal Powell always looks. He picks up some yardage. He might occasionally break a big play, but he's still never been given the volume to do that consistently. So, but with Crowell hurt, we'll see.
All right. Only other notes I see here, Clive Walford looked to be the starting tight end so far, based on your assessment, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only one that's shown anything. Jordan Leggett's been basically MIA as well.
Him and Herndon both have been MIA.
Herndon, yeah.
Clive Walford, I think, did something. I think he had. I think I saw him. Heard his name called once.
He's had 2 catches in both preseason games. I mean, that's just kind of a situation to avoid.
I mean, I think you want maybe 1, possibly 2 running backs out of this team and maybe 1 or 2 receivers, and that's going to be about it in any sort of standard redraft league.
Good luck at figuring out which receivers you want to own. I guess Robbie
And then,
Anderson.
the other one is, it's kind of funny. Chad Hansen and Ardarius Stewart have just been
terrible,
not great this offseason or this preseason. Meanwhile, like you said, McBride and then Charles Johnson have also shown a little bit at the very least. At least they've shown up. So that's kind of funny to see that a lot of people's sleepers aren't really showing up like they thought they would.
No.
Yeah, Stewart, I think, also has kind of just gotten himself in the doghouse at this point with some of his off-field issues.
Yeah, Hansen not showing up is a little bit surprising, but
yeah, we liked some things about him coming out, but I'm not totally shocked.
no, I'm not either.
All right. Last game we're going to go over for you guys here. We've got the Cardinals at the Saints, and it looks like I forgot my Saints notes, so I'll pull those up while I'm going over the Cardinals. Cardinals win this one 20-15 on the Cardinals side. And actually, before I get into this game, if you ever have the pleasure of watching a Cardinals preseason game, stuff your ears. One of their announcers sounds like everyone's drunk uncle at Thanksgiving. He's very annoying to listen to. I watched the Cardinals at Chargers game first, and that one, that guy was singing "Happy Birthday" to his co-host, and it was awful.
Yikes.
Okay, so on the Cardinals side, David Johnson looks a bit more human in this one. He had a couple negative plays, but he still showed some pretty explosive playmaking ability, and he had an excellent power run
So
for
he
a
has
touchdown.
diarrhea.
Yes, he did still have diarrhea.
Still has diarrhea. Explosive runs.
Yep. So David Johnson, he's still my running back one this year, even with some of the concerns about the offensive line, just because he's shown us time and time again that he just has a nose for the end zone and the ability to make things happen on his own. Onto the receivers, Christian Kirk got the start with Bryce Butler out. He had an excellent punt return and 3 good catches, including one for a touchdown. Him and Josh Rosen were having a great game together. Overall, he looked like the wide receiver 2 on this team. And then Chad Williams also showed off what he can do, especially after the catch. He had a stiff arm to an extended reception for about an extra 10 yards. He had another catch where he ran over a defender for an extra 5 yards. So he's really tough after the catch. Kind of like we saw to Jamon Moore's tape as a rookie, where he was just running through guys after the catch. It's kind of nice to see, and maybe add some physicality to the outside of this team, which would be a nice thing for them to pick up. If you can also do that while run blocking, that'd be a great thing for this team. Josh Rosen continues to struggle. When he's being moved off the spot, often gets blindsided when holding the ball too long. When he does step up and throw, he's incredibly accurate. He had multiple nice throws, including the touchdown to Kirk in this one. So basically, it was just what we saw in week 1, just more of it.
And college.
Yep, pressure has always been a big problem for him. It's going to be interesting to see if that's something that he can kind of get his head wrapped around and finally stop just relying on his accuracy to make things work for him.
Yeah, he's great if he has a clean pocket.
His biggest thing in college was he'd start just making dumb plays when he got under pressure. So I don't.
Yeah, he seems to either not sense it or if he gets moved off the spot, he just throws it up there.
He gets frantic, I think.
Yeah, he does definitely get frantic.
And the mechanics go away, and then it just all goes out the window.
Yep. In the running back fight in this game for behind David Johnson, Edmonds was the second back in. He looked okay. He doesn't look like he's going to ever be a league winner type if he ever got the chance to handcuff David Johnson, but he definitely is the number 2 back on this offense. Foster still looks terrible, and then TJ Logan was much better this week. They actually ran in between the tackles again, as much you want to hate them for that, but he actually looked better.
Just because TJ Logan's so explosive, I think he's somebody you need to get into space. I mean, that guy's acceleration is otherworldly.
It is, and he had a good punt return or a good kickoff return in this one. I'm hoping that they can find a way for him to be the running back 3 because Foster I've seen nothing out of. Sorry to Ryan Whitfield, who was hyping him up last year, but I don't think Foster is anything.
Yep.
All right, moving on to the Saints, which I forgot to do notes on, so I'll just have to kind of break this down as quickly as I can.
Wing it.
Overall, Mark Ingram came in, looked amazing. He had 2 first downs on his first 3 carries. If you can afford to stash him as your running back 3 in a situation where you grab him in like the 5th round of your redraft leagues, you're going to be real happy when he's in your flex position for the rest of the season after those first 4 weeks. He still looks just as good as he did last year. Michael Thomas was in for just 2 drives, but he had 3 targets in those 2 drives, caught 2 of them, so it looks like he is going to be just absolutely fed this year. Cam Meredith did nothing, had 1 target, didn't bring it in. Jonathan Williams was in on the first drive, had a nice carry, 12 yards on his second carry. He was still getting carries into the third quarter, but he easily looks like the second best back here. Shane Vereen and Terrence West didn't come in until the fourth quarter, and then Boston Scott was the third running back in, and he just didn't look like much either. So overall, if I was to rank it right now, I would say it's Jonathan Williams, then Terrence West, then Boston Scott, then Shane Vereen in my order, but I pretty much only want Jonathan Williams at this point for those first 4 weeks.
That's how I had it last week too, exactly. So I'm glad that carried over. That was the other game that I meant to watch, was who was going to fill in those first 4 weeks. But last week too, it looked like Jonathan Williams was the best. It was Williams, West, Scott Vereen. So
Taysom Hill, Tom Savage, and JT Barrett are not a good backup quarterback. If you combined all three of them, you might have something, but probably not when they're all split into three separate players. Taysom Hill can't really throw very well. He had two strip sacks and a pick.
It's like a mediocre Megazord for Saints backup quarterbacks.
Yep. When our powers combine, we are a borderline competent backup quarterback.
With our powers combined, we're shit. Garrett Gilbert.
Yeah, but Taysom Hill was fantastic running the ball in the one play that he took off. He had a 40-yard touchdown run on it. So he is very athletic. So I'm not worried about him there. It's just going to be if these guys come in, it's going to just completely blow up the passing game. So stay healthy, Drew Brees.
And Garrett Gilbert was not the name I wanted to go for in the punchline of that joke. I wanted Blaine Gabbert, but I always forget Blaine Gabbert exists. And then I went Gilbert Gottfried, and I knew that wasn't right. Although he might be a better backup quarterback.
Could be.
Just don't ever interview him.
And then Hopper's favorite, Traquan Smith. Nice catch late in the second quarter. He had a 15 yards after the catch on that one. Another nice catch in the third quarter. He was playing into the fourth quarter, but he was flashing the entire time he was in. If Cam cannot get himself right, Traquan could be the number 2 in terms of like possession receiver types, with Ginn being the deep threat.
Can I just spoilers for later episodes this week? But Traquan Smith and Anthony Miller and Deshaun Hamilton all showed out. How about the slot receivers in this draft class?
Well, we knew this was going to be a good slot receiver draft class.
Yeah, we did.
So yeah, that's all I've got on the Saints game. I think that's all we've got for preseason football. Are we gonna go? We can go ahead and jump into a beer review.
Beer review.
Beer review.
Before we do that, also before we was that a creaky door? Or was that a baby?
That sounded like a baby.
Do we have a baby on the podcast for the second time?
It was actually a husky.
Oh, was it?
Aw.
Yep.
Pupper.
I think that's the first time we've heard a dog on the show. So
we have had a baby on the show, though.
Yes, we have had a baby. All right.
Sorry about that, guys.
So Hopper, what did you think of Fleeting by Triptych?
Hold on, I accidentally muted Sam, and I can't figure out how to unmute him.
Uh-oh. Sorry, Sam.
Or did he mute him? Oh, you're good.
I muted me.
Okay, cool. I was really confused. Really solid. It was better off draft. I think we should have had this probably when I got it 3 weeks ago, because you are supposed to drink it quick. But overall, moderate hoppiness. Really pleasant. Like, there's peach to it. The peach doesn't necessarily jump out, but you can definitely tell there's like a fruity type of balance there to it.
Mm-hmm. A little bit of a almost cream, slightless.
Yeah, it finishes really smooth. So it's a very, very solid IPA, though.
Yep. Eureka hops are generally pretty mild. I think that's usually what's in New England style, right? Is Eureka?
Yeah.
But it's brewed differently than your standard New England style, where it's not quite as juicy up front. It's more of kind of a creamy finish overall.
It's a little piney up front, honestly.
Ever so slightly piney up front. Very, very drinkable, though. I don't think I've quite had a beer quite like this one before. So if you're looking for, if you're one like us and you're just looking for something that's a little different than anything else you've ever had before, this would definitely meet that requirement, which Triptych generally does.
Yeah, if you're in the Champaign, Illinois area for any reason whatsoever, I cannot stress enough, hit up Triptych. They are fantastic, and just about everything they do is fantastic.
Yep, I wish they would distribute a little bit more outside of just a few of their things, but
working on it, I think. I heard the other day that they're moving the canning out of the brew house that it's in now to open up that entire place as just a pub to a larger distribution. So hopefully that means they're going to start spreading out soon.
I would be excited for that. Maybe they'll get down to St. Louis and Sam can get some.
Yep.
Yes, please.
All right. Well, Triptych, thank you for being on the show for the third time. Let's go ahead and jump into our main segment today, Risers and Sliders.
Main segment, an hour in.
We're already an hour in, cheese.
Too high, too low is how I'm doing this because I'm me. Okay?
Okay.
Too high, too low.
It's actually literally 100% because I set up the soundboard for the wrong segment and I'm too lazy to go back and change it. So too high, too low, risers, sliders. I'm going to talk over this entire drop so you can't enjoy the Crash Bandicoot music.
risers and sliders,
Burn, burn, burn,
but not the ones you get at White Castle.
Oh yeah, that was the one. But not the ones you get at White Castle. I need to record that more clearly in the new one.
All right. So for risers, I had each of us pick 3 players that are rising up our draft boards, and this is just over the last couple weeks. So basically, since training camp has started, and when we finished up doing our rankings episodes for you guys a few weeks ago, Hopper, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with your first riser?
So my first riser is going to be Chris Carson. I watched the Seahawks game as extra credit this week, and he looked fantastic. He's running tough between the tackles. He looks 1,000 times better than Rashad Penny did before he broke himself. But he's running tough. He's getting outside. He's chunking away yardage. He's shutting off tackles. So he's a guy that I had not ranked before, and he jumped up to 36 after week 1, and he is more than likely going to jump up to right around 25 after this week for me. And that's just because I'm not a Rashad Penny believer. They sprinkled a little bit of Mike Davis in the second quarter. You saw no CJ Procise until the third quarter. It looked like that they were fully relying on Carson, and he didn't give him a reason to go away from him. So he's running tougher. He's running between the tackles well, something that they really struggled with last year. So I haven't seen a reason to back off of him or think that he could be like a, Alex Collins type of player from last year.
Yeah, I'm not rising him quite as high as you are. He's probably going to come in close to about 30-ish to me, but I've already snatched him in a couple drafts late where people hadn't quite caught on to the Chris Carson train yet, and I was grabbing like the 8th, 9th, 10th round, and I'm happy to do it there at this point.
I did too. So
and with that broken finger, who knows what Penny's going to be able to do over here over the next few weeks. So
yes, especially some of the big issues he had was with pass blocking and receiving work, and he won't be able to practice those probably at all with the broken finger healing.
Right.
So
all right,
I said 25. Actually, looking at it again, I'll probably jump up to the top of the next tier, so about 27, 28. But,
okay, a little closer.
But still, I mean, he's some guy who you can get him in the 10th, and he probably should be going about 6 or 7.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, Sam, I have to ask before you go into why Josh Allen is a riser for you. Were you a hater or a lover of Josh Allen coming into the draft process?
I was a hater. I think I was one of the few haters.
One
of the many haters.
Welcome to the dark side, because I was leading the charge the other way, and I didn't have a whole lot of allies.
Yeah, so I guess for me, he was below even like I almost had him below Mason Rudolph. I was kind of flip flopping on those two. He's shown a lot of things, and like we talked about earlier, he's shown his bad things, but he's definitely shown a lot of good. And I think a lot of his hate was very overblown. He was inaccurate. He made some very poor decisions, and he does do that. But he's just shown a lot in these 2 games, and like Nick said, I think he becomes a starter in week 1.
I agree.
Yeah, he's definitely shown enough for me that I grabbed him as in the Scott Fish Bowl as my quarterback 4, and I'm kind of okay with it now. Like, hey, he might be a decent bye week fill-in for me at this point.
No, I think he will be, and he was somebody that coming out of college. I mean, listeners to the show that aren't new to it, that have been listening since the draft process, know that I was of the opinion that if you could get him coached up and get him a little bit more protection than what he had at Wyoming, that some of that inaccuracy and some of those bad things were going to go away a little bit.
And unfortunately, doesn't have very good receivers, but anybody in the NFL is probably going to be better than what he had at Wyoming. So
yeah. All right, Nick, Chris Hogan.
Yep, Chris Hogan is the one I wanted to bring up, and this is both just me kind of being impressed with what I've seen in the preseason process, and also them just shedding receivers like they're, I don't know, eating pistachios and throwing the shells away after they're done. They've gotten rid of Malcolm Mitchell. They brought in Eric Decker as his replacement. Kenny Britt is rumored to be on the chopping block because he can't get healthy, which I don't know that Kenny Britt's much of a threat anyway. Ignore everything I said in 2017 about Kenny Britt. And this team just seems to have no answers at receiver. So I think it's pretty much going to be the James White, Robert Gronkowski, Chris Hogan show is what we're going to be down to.
Robert Gronkowski. His professional name.
Yes.
Chris Hogan jumped up 28 spots for me. I was seriously low on him. So he jumped up 28 spots for me, which put him right with DJ Moore, Robert Woods. I'm going to jump him up again, I think, probably into the wide receiver 3 range. Just because of what I've seen from him. He's shown that he can do it in the absence of Edelman. He's being more than just a deep threat as long as he can stay healthy. And like Nick said, the way that they've shaped wide receivers.
Yeah, there's just going to be no threats to his targets whatsoever. And the other thing I have to pair with this is I probably have to bump up Edelman because I had some concerns with Jordan Matthews there that maybe he wouldn't get his full role back. But at this point, I'm still not excited about him with the 4-game suspension, but I have him way too low considering what he's going to be walking into when he comes back.
I had him too high. I actually faded him a little bit from what Hogan showed me.
Yeah, I was significantly lower than all you guys on Edelman, though.
So we're probably going to end up about the same by the time it's all said and done.
Probably. All right.
I honestly think he finishes as a wide receiver 2 this year. I know you said you put him up in that wide receiver 3, but even in those, and I don't remember how many games he played last year. He was very efficient.
I think it was
scored
10
touchdowns.
Yeah. I think that's his upside. I tend to rank. Everybody does rankings a little bit differently. I tend to rank closer towards floor than upside.
Okay.
So that out there for clarity.
Okay.
All right, Hopper, your second riser.
Christian McCaffrey. Stop the presses.
Did that hurt?
Yeah, a little bit. So, all reports on Christian McCaffrey is that he looks way better than expected between the tackles. I have yet to actually watch the Panthers, but I've seen the efficiency numbers. I believe the people that are saying this because I know that they weren't hardcore Christian McCaffrey truthers or whatever. So it was a slight jump. I didn't have him super low. He jumped up to the Jordan Howard tier for me. He could end up above that after I see it for myself. But CJ Anderson hasn't been a factor in preseason like I thought he was going to be, and the reports on McCaffrey between the tackles have been good. 25 to 30 carries seems realistic. He did put on a little bit of weight, so I'm not so stubborn to where I can't adjust based on what I'm seeing and what's going on around me. So he's slowly creeping up for me. I don't know that he gets a lot higher. He may leapfrog Jordan Howard and LaShawn McCoy and sit at 12 behind Kareem Hunt, but I don't see him going much higher than that. But he was already decently high. I mean, he was ranked as my 16, and I moved up to 14. So
yeah, I think he's my 13, just behind Jordan Howard. The highest I think he could go would be 12, right behind Devonta.
That's
Freeman.
what I think too. So he's not going to rise a whole lot more, but ultimately it's been good on him. So
yeah, and I think I've actually faded CJ Anderson a little bit just because he hasn't even been getting in until after McCaffrey's done.
Yeah, I faded CJ Anderson a lot.
So
I'll actually talk about that. Well, no, sorry, I won't talk about that later. I almost put CJ Anderson down, but I felt like it correlated too much to my Christian McCaffrey thing.
All right.
I actually almost put Christian McCaffrey here, but I've always been extremely high on him. I've got him as a top 12 running back because I just felt like even with a slight bump in carries, say from I think he had 117 last year to 150 plus a slight increase in efficiency, he finishes as RB8 last year. So I just think as a rookie or going from that rookie to a sophomore, you're going to see that increase in efficiency. And even if it's just a slight bump, but it sounds like it's more than a slight bump in carries, you're going to see that.
That's what I have to adjust for is a little bit more efficient between the tackles and his carries or what I adjusted for. I still think that his target volume is less, but I think that the carries are going to be a little bit more than what I thought, and I think the efficiency is going to be better. But Sam, one of the guys you're about to talk about, I've been consistently high on since pre-draft.
I've actually stashed the other guy in a few leagues myself, so actually I agree with both these. Royce Freeman and Phillip Lindsay.
Right. So, we'll see him later because I put Devontae Booker as one of my sliders, but I was actually relatively high on Devontae Booker just because it seemed like Vance Joseph and the Broncos wanted to use Devontae Booker, and despite drafting Royce Freeman. But in these first 2 preseason games, Royce Freeman's looked awesome. Phillip Lindsay's looked even better and looks like he should be the third down satellite back there. And Devontae Booker's just kind of looked pedestrian. He's looked like Devontae Booker. So I don't know how Royce Freeman doesn't become the starter, especially on first and second down. And I don't know how Philip Lindsay doesn't make this team and push for targets.
So do you see this falling out like, Royce Freeman equals C.J. Anderson, Philip Lindsay equals Jamal Charles, and Devontae Booker equals Devontae Booker?
I see it more like Philip Lindsay equals Devontae Booker in that, because Devontae Booker actually got a decent amount of
he did
targets last year, and he actually looked okay with those, but he looks indecisive running the ball.
He's running into the back of his line.
Right, and he doesn't see holes. He is more. I think he's better served in a power scheme, and they're not using that power scheme. So,
Royce's footwork continues to flash. His vision continues to flash. He had a nice catch and run, and Philip Lindsay just keeps showing that he's explosive against lower level competition. So you've got to take a look at him. Yeah.
So honestly, I think the odd man out here is D'Angelo Henderson, but I
hate that, but yeah.
And I do too. But I mean, I just don't know, especially in these first two games with how Philip Lindsay's looked. I just don't know how he doesn't make this team and start to push.
I personally think Devontae Booker should be the odd man out. But
I agree. I mean, and I'm on that train especially with Paxton Lynch, just that entire draft class. Paxton Lynch and Devontae Booker have definitely not been the players that they were drafted to be.
Carlos Henderson looks like he's been passed up and buried completely.
That was a different draft class.
That was last year.
Oh yeah, it was.
But I mean, those two specifically, they're not doing anything to help the Broncos, and I agree. Ultimately, I think they both should not be on this team anymore. But I just BJ seems to be in love with Devontae Booker, so I think he's still going to be around.
Well, and that's evident by the fact that they're not coming out and saying Royce Freeman's going to start. We're going to give Royce Freeman more carries, or they're still rotating them on series in the preseason. And what's Booker done to earn that, or what's he shown to earn that? And it's absolutely nothing. They're giving him every chance to show something, and he's not doing it.
Right.
All right. Enough about the Denver backfield there?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Marquise Goodwin. This is a situation where I don't tend to buy into one report about somebody blowing up that in preseason or training camp. But when you start to get the constant drum beats from every single beat reporter and every report coming out of camp that this guy is actually the wide receiver one, and then he comes out and flashes in the preseason games and you don't get anything from the guy who you thought was going to be the one, you start to look at flipping him. I haven't quite pushed Goodwin in front of Garcon yet, but I've been moving them closer and closer together. Garcon has been slowly sliding on my boards, and Goodwin's slowly been bumping up. And if things don't change by week 3 of the preseason here, Goodwin is going to pass Garcon in my rankings.
Yeah. I was high on Marquise Goodwin last year, and really, I had him and Garcon ranked really close to each other, just because you can't denounce rapport or trust between a quarterback and a receiver. And that was the uphill battle that I felt that Garcon had, even though I think his game and Jimmy Garoppolo's mesh really well. The trust factor of Goodwin having had reps with Garoppolo last year and not this year. Or Garcon not, rather. Sam?
Is he muted or?
No. I mean, there he is. Maybe. He unmuted himself.
Okay. Well, we may have lost him for a moment. Just any other thoughts on Goodwin possibly jumping Garcon in rankings? Because I'm about there in my next update.
No, I probably will be too. I'm close on that, and I think that they're coming close together. And will it be a giant jump? No, but they could draw Garcon down enough, Goodwin up enough to where they.
Yeah, I think Goodwin in my initial ranking started off in the 50s, and now my last rankings he was 40, and I think he probably jumps up into the mid 30s in my next rank.
Right.
All right. Well, Copper, go ahead and talk about Kenny Stills here. Hopefully we can get Sam back.
Yeah, hopefully we can. So Kenny Stills, this is purely Devontae Parker related. Danny Amendola can't stay healthy. Devontae Parker broke a finger after looking like crap and having absolutely no good reports about him. And Kenny Stills, there you are.
Yep, there I am. I got you.
And Kenny Stills kind of showed out. Really, first preseason game, he showed out a little bit last year also. So when you're looking for a wide receiver one and a pretty mundane receiver core with a quarterback that's had several seasons over 4,000 yards and a defense that's not going to be very good, Kenny Stills fits that mold. and he's going to have a decent amount of volume. He's always had the ability to be kind of a big play guy and to break something off. So, if I'm drafting Kenny Stills as my third or fourth wide receiver, and you can get him way cheaper than that.
Yeah, he's often going in the 10th or 11th round.
Yeah, I'm going to do that because I really think he's going to be the one in Miami.
Though, know who you're drafting with, because if you're drafting with a bunch of people who are in the industry, he is not going in the 10th or 11th round. He's going more like the 7th or 8th.
Yeah, because everybody in the know knows.
So, any thoughts on Goodwin or Stills there, Sam?
Well, I mean, with Goodwin, he's shown that chemistry with Garoppolo in at least this last game. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
They showed a couple of good deep passes, so I think that's true. I was never high on Marquise Goodwin because I thought, like you guys said, that he was going to have some chemistry with Pierre Garçon, but it seems to be the inverse of that. So I definitely agree with that. In terms of Kenny Stills, I mean, I was high on Devontae Parker for his first 3 seasons. And then last year, I just kind of got off that train. I was like, I can't do it anymore. Plus, I mean, we heard good things before camp, but now we're not hearing good things out of camp. And he broke his finger. So it's just, I think it's time to move on from Devontae Parker at this point.
Or at least, fade him as kind of just an upside play and nothing more that he is.
Right. Right.
Whoever the wide receiver one in this offense should produce, because Tannehill does put up decent volume, even if he doesn't necessarily translate it into wins or efficiency on the field for the Dolphins, but he can support fantasy relevant receivers. So whoever his one is definitely worth owning. All right.
No, I agree completely. It was a retread of what I just said. So, yeah, I obviously agree.
Yep. All right, Sam, go on to your guy here who's actually going to match up perfectly with one of my sliders.
Yeah, so it's Taywan Taylor.
Looked so good.
Yeah, and he, I mean, especially yesterday, he looked phenomenal. He took a screen pass to the house. But first and foremost, Rashard Matthews is dead. We don't.
He's at least missing.
Yeah. So, I mean, wherever Rashard Matthews is, I think a lot of people were on that Matthews train where he might be that wide receiver one again for Mariota. And Taywan Taylor was going to be the wide receiver 3 there, but really it was going to be even like the 4th or 5th option in terms of the receiving game. But now all of a sudden we have Taywan Taylor taking that Rashard Matthews role, probably playing out of the slot a lot. And everything from camp is telling us that he is dominating, and he showed it yesterday. Especially he had 95 yards, I believe, and a touchdown. So I'm just
2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns. There you go. So Taywan Taylor is definitely jumping up boards right now, and especially for me, I'm a lot higher on him than I was before camp.
Yeah, he's a guy who went from being like, he's probably not worth a whole hell of a lot to he's just rapidly jumping up my rankings right now. He went from being not ranked to he'll probably be wide receiver 45, 50-ish, at least in the next rankings, and maybe even higher.
Yeah, he's going to come out. He's coming up for me as well, just because he's flashed in both preseason games. He was the only wide receiver that was out there really from who you'd expect the starting 3 to be in week 1, and he looked good. And then he came out this week and looked really good. So, I mean, that deserves a bump up.
All right. And then one last riser I want to talk about here is Buck Allen. And this is basically just a burying of Kenneth Dixon, who I'll talk about in my sliders more specifically on him. But as we talked about when we were projecting out the this offense here, whoever the running back 2 is with Alex Collins is going to have ancillary value, at least as a pass catcher and at least change the pace roll. The Ravens have been top 3 for a number of plays run for 5 straight years. They just, I don't know why, because they've had a pretty inept offense, but they seem to run a lot of plays, which means that if you have a pass-catching running back or a running back 2 in that offense, they can have enough value to be at least a flex play for you. And it looks like Buck Allen is going to be the guy to win that job. I don't think Gus Edwards is quite talented enough to win it, and Kenneth Dixon can't get healthy. So at this point, my money's on Buck Allen. He's jumped from not ranked up into about running back 50-ish range for me, and he'll probably keep sliding up the more it looks like he's going to secure that role.
Yeah, I actually adjusted my rankings to reflect that from what we saw in the preseason with him looking better than Kenneth Dixon, and I've expected there to be a pass catching back in Baltimore because Alex Collins has struggled in that area. So it's looking like it's going to be Buck Allen, and that's worth about 60 targets and
Probably
60.
100-ish carries.
Yeah. Sam?
We lose him again.
Yeah, he'll be back at some point, I'm sure.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump to the sliders, but not the White Castle version.
Oh, my internet connection's unstable. Hey, it's probably me. Sam, you're back.
I'm here.
Any thoughts on Buck Allen?
Yeah, sorry. I've never been a fan of Kenneth Dixon. I just, with all of the issues that have gone on with him, injuries and off the field, and with him coming into this year, and Buck Allen had a under the radar great year last year, and like you said, I mean, Alex Collins wasn't really part of that pass game, and they need a pass catching back there. So Buck Allen's definitely a guy I've been looking at late. I mean, like, he's going RB5, RB6 in a lot of drafts, and maybe even not even being drafted. And then you're getting wide receiver 3 numbers, or sorry, RB3 numbers out of him. So he's definitely a guy I've been looking at late in drafts.
Yeah, I actually want to see how late he's going here. I'm not even sure he gets drafted most of the time.
Buck?
Yeah.
No, he's not. His ADP is probably around 14 someplace.
Yeah, he's not even on draft boards right now in terms of like top 15 rounds. So yeah, unless you're in a super deep league, he's going undrafted, and he's kind of a similar player to oh darn it, which pass catching back did we talk? Theo Riddick. I'd prefer Theo, but if you miss on Theo and want a similar type back, Buck Allen would be a good replacement.
Yep, good fallback option.
All right, let's go to sliders. Hopper, you have Ronald Jones, who might be a little too obvious, but in case people have missed the news on this, why are we sliding Ronald Jones?
He's not looked good. He's not really shown any type of dynamic ability. He hasn't shown any of the playmaking ability he's shown in college. Peyton Barber hasn't come out and completely shit the bed, and Charles Sims is still something that the Bucs believe in. So with those things being true, Ronald Jones may be relegated to running back 3 at this point. So, and because Rodgers is still hanging around too.
Yeah, and this has not been a good running team outside of the one Doug Martin blow up year a few years back. So this team has not been a team you can usually rely on to have multiple running back pieces that are worth starting. It's usually going to be one guy, if anyone. So at this point, the only guy I want is Peyton Barber. And Ronald Jones is still going at the top of the 6th round, which is way too high for what we're currently seeing out of him, because very likely you're holding onto him until he straight up wins this job. And that's not what you can spend a 6th round pick on.
No, it's not. And really, in redraft, I probably would avoid it until late. And then, you hope that he shows something, but you have no guarantees of that. So,
man, Peyton Barber's going in the 11th.
Yeah, so Peyton Barber is a good late round stash, especially if you're light at running back.
All right. Any thoughts there, Sam?
He disappeared again.
Okay.
I don't know. Connection-wise, what the hell's going on? There he is.
I just have to keep replugging and unplugging stuff. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
Rojo. I mean, he was kind of. It seemed like he was drafted to kind of take that pass catching role, but he never really flashed that in college, and he's definitely not flashing in the preseason here. So definitely not high, and definitely.
Yeah, I'm not interested in taking him where his current ADP is. How far would he have to slide before you start getting interested? Because I'm sliding him real hard in my rankings.
God. 9, maybe?
9th round?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, once you get into the 10th, I'd definitely think about taking him there.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's kind of a... And I don't even like him as much, but he's kind of like Alvin Kamara was to me last year, where you grab him and you just hope he eventually wins the role. But you're going to be holding him for probably at least a couple weeks, if not longer. And it's going to be the first couple weeks are going to be started by Fitzpatrick, so the whole offense is probably going to be at least kind of ugly.
Yeah, especially tight ends.
Yeah, especially tight ends. Yeah, as we've reiterated before, do not draft Cameron Brate or O.J. Howard this year. Wait till they get dropped to waivers after the first 3 weeks. All right, Sam, you have Sammy Watkins on the list. Why are you fading him?
Yeah, so this is not going to be popular with a lot of people, but really it's from Friday. He looked lost. I guess I'm fading him more because we didn't see anything from him. The 3 targets he saw, I think he had a drop. There was another one for an interception. I can't remember what the other one was. But from before the preseason, we were hearing he's moving all around the formation, that he's got rapport with Mahomes, and then that didn't show at all in the preseason game. And then we see the 70-yard touchdown in the air pass from Mahomes to Tyreek. So I just, it was disconcerting to not see Sammy be effective in the preseason game and in his first preseason action.
Yeah. And really not just his ineffectiveness, but the effectiveness of Tyreek Hill, not just underneath, but deep again. Is cause for me to, I mean, Tyreek Hill, I had this game this week, and we'll talk about it later on in the week, but he was very clearly the top target.
Yeah, so kind of some of my concerns about Sammy. I'm not going to fade him too much because there's still definitely some serious upside there. But
and because you're a truther.
I mean, I think I'm lower ranked on him than you are right now.
Well, I haven't adjusted him yet.
All right. Well, coming into this week, I was lower than you were.
Your opinion, though, is generally higher than mine.
All right. I will agree with that, even though I think I've been the lowest of the three of us in him in terms of his Kansas City move.
Where do you have him right now?
He's my 28.
27 for me, so slightly. We're right there. He's falling, though. He's going to come down for me.
Yeah, probably early 30s for me. I think I'll move him slightly behind, probably right behind Davis.
Yeah.
All right. And then my follower is going to be Jerick McKinnon, who I've already had some concerns with, and I've slid him about half a round here over the last couple weeks. And that's just a combination of concerns about his workload and already him picking up an injury.
Yeah, he's hurt, and he's been hurt throughout his career.
And it's soft tissue. So.
Yep.
And those, basically, unless they shut you down, don't necessarily go away, as we talked about on the father-son mock draft we did. I forget which player we were talking about, but yeah, soft tissue is not guaranteed to go away unless you shut a guy down. Stompy, can you remind me who we were talking about on that one?
Actually, it's the guy that's on my list, Marlon Mack.
Okay.
Yes.
And then who was the orthopedic guy we had on that was explaining?
Matthew Betts.
Matthew Betts. So shout out to him. He did a great job of explaining soft tissue injury. I understood it decently well, but it was good having a little bit more advanced terminology coming out of him on that. So yeah, McKinnon just sliding for me. I'm looking at him more of as a mid running back too, as opposed to a high one in my rankings now, and just kind of where most people are taking him. I'm not interested in anymore.
Yeah.
All right.
I for him, I just wasn't interested because I don't think, and I think you had mentioned this on the Father Son pod, I don't think he's going to get more than 250-ish touches. So really, with the soft tissue injury, I think, I agree. He's going to drop a little bit here. So,
all right. Alan Hearns for Hopper.
He came in, you expected him to be the one, and then the reports out of camp are Cole Beasley's Dak Prescott to go to. And when you watch the preseason games, Michael Gallup looks like he's the best receiver, which is not surprising to me. So, to me, I had Alan Hearns ranked coming into the preseason to be kind of the one, and then I bumped Gallup up a little bit and Hearns down a little bit last week. But, I mean, really, he may end up being the three in this offense if things keep trending the way that they're trending with, Dak Prescott and Cole Beasley obviously have rapport, and Michael Gallup's flashing. And, we talked about this when Gallup got drafted. His skill set really fits Dak Prescott well. He's a physical route runner that, can work the underneath stuff that Dak really needs the receiver to work and can get himself open, which benefits Dak Prescott a lot. So, and Beasley's a lot of the same way, not necessarily physical, but he's quick and he gets open.
Yeah, and we knew Hearns was going to rely on volume, and it just, from the sound of it, he's not going to get it.
Doesn't look like the volume's going to be there.
I had actually written him down on my list before I deleted him and thought of somebody else. But I mean, with everything that going on with Gallup in the preseason games, and then you can take the Cowboys for what they are, but having Beasley on the outside, but that's not, I agree. I think Hearns could be the wide receiver 3 here, which
I think Michael Gallup has a chance to be the most productive wide receiver by the time we're looking back on this season.
I agree.
Yeah, I definitely. That wouldn't shock me. I'm still hoping for a little bit more out of him in this preseason 3 game, but he's starting to rise enough for me where I'm going to start looking to target him as a late round flyer type pick.
Hey, weekly rankings updates. So
That's what we're here for. All right. Sam, do you want to talk about Devontae Booker anymore?
No, I think we're past Devontae Booker at this point. I mean, like I said, he looks lost out there. He's not hitting holes. He's running into his linemen. I really did think he was going to get a decent amount of touches this year, but with the rise of the rookies and then him just looking he looked kind of meh yesterday, and then he looked terrible in the first preseason game. I'm avoiding him.
So is he even draftable for you at this point in a standard 15-round draft?
No, not at all.
All right. Moving on to Kenneth Dixon, who pretty similar. We already mentioned here off-field issues. He can't get healthy. He's not been in either of the preseason games yet. At this point, we just need him. Actually, they play Monday, so it'll be Monday night when they play next. So he might get in that game. Unless we see something dramatic from him, I think he may not even make this team. So at this point, I'm fading him, and he's dropped off my rankings completely.
Yeah.
All right. Nyheim Hines.
This is just the fact that he wasn't, from what I've seen so far, he hasn't been used the way I thought he was going to be used. It's been a lot of T.Y. Hilton, a lot of Jack Doyle, not a lot of receiving work for Nyheim Hines. He's been in the return game, maybe a little bit here and there, but really, it just, I had him, I think, projected way too high to have to be a receiving option in this offense. And I guess I kind of forgot, a learning experience for me, this only being the second year we're doing this, that he is a rookie and he's got to prove his way, and I was a little too bullish on it, so I had to pull back on that some. Because he hasn't been used the way that I thought he was going to be used. I still think that he'll flash. I still think he's going to be used in the passing game, but I don't think it's going to be the volume that I had initially thought with the void wide receivers that the Colts have.
And didn't he have 2 fumbles in the first preseason game?
I don't
remember. That was my game. I think he did. He had at least 1, I know.
Yeah, so that definitely didn't help anything.
Right.
And I've always had some concerns about him being a traditional runner, so I was not ever super high on him, but I was starting to kind of buy into a lot of the hype that was going around on Twitter on him, but it sounds like people are starting to pull back a little bit now and realize, hey, he may not be what we were hoping. Yeah,
and I'm going to segue into Sam's guy here, so sorry if I'm stepping on you a little bit, but Marlon Mack looked like the real deal as a runner and running through people before he hurt himself, and
this injury makes me sad because I really was excited for him.
Yeah. So Jordan Wilkins, which is the way that I originally had it ranked, and then I went through and changed it. So
yeah, so I think this speaks on Jordan Wilkins as a riser for us. It doesn't. Have they brought anybody in to work out?
No, and Robert Turbin. They haven't
that's
tried
right.
to
They
change
had
his
Brandon
role.
Oliver.
Yeah,
who came in and hurt himself immediately.
Yeah, and so they still have Robert Turbin, but his role hasn't adjusted any.
And he's also suspended for 4 games.
Yeah. So Jordan Wilkins seems to be kind of. I really hope that Marlon Mack can come back healthy, because, like you said, he did look good in that first preseason game, but soft tissue injuries, we'll see.
Well, and he struggled with them last year too, a little bit. So, and Jordan Wilkins really looked like he did in college. There wasn't too much of a drop off, at least from the first game. I didn't watch the second one for the Colts, but
I think that's a Dan game.
Yeah, I think it is too, but we'll see what he has to say about that later this week. But I'm really pulling back on Hines, and then unfortunately I've got to pull back on Max some too because of the soft tissue issue.
Agreed. I hope he can come back healthy because I'm real high on him, but
he looked good.
I will be sliding him just because it's a 50-50 shot that he kind of recovers from that and actually gets back to 100%. All right, last player to talk about here. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because we already mentioned him. Rashard Matthews is sliding for me. He was one of my favorite late-round dart throws early in the process, but the fact is he has not been healthy at training camp or played in any preseason games at this point. And he was always kind of just a guy who we thought might excel in a situation where he's going to be fed targets as a wide receiver too. But with the emergence of Taywan Taylor and him not being able to get healthy, Rashard Matthews just has to slide, and he might fall off my board completely.
Yep, I agree.
All right, well, that wraps it up for Risers and Sliders. Sorry for a little bit longer episode on this one. We went real in depth in some of these preseason games here. Had a lot of news to cover. One last shout out here to Sam Lane here at FF Stompy on Twitter. Reminder, he's a writer for F3 Pod, IDP Guys, and FF Authority.
And he's saving the world. Don't forget that he's saving the world.
Working his ass off to save the world for us.
Trying, boys, trying.
Well, we appreciate the hard work there. Anything else you want to shout out before that you've been working on lately?
I guess I've just been working on both offensive and defensive side of the ball. So trying to get 2 articles a week coming out. I've been making a lot of guest appearances on podcasts, so definitely listen for those and read some of my stuff, and hopefully it helps you guys in your fantasy league. So
we appreciate the insight. We appreciate you joining us for.
I appreciate you letting me come on.
Anytime.
Absolutely. And if we ever get an IDP episode, which I think that might be our move next year, is to start adding IDPs, because we went super hard into super flex this year.
I started playing an IDP dynasty last year, so I'm getting my feet wet into it.
Yeah, I would love to join you guys again.
All right. Well, as a reminder for us, we are Beer Fueled FF on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped. Beer Fueled Fantasy Football on YouTube and Facebook. Individually, we got Christopher Hopper.
I'm at Hot BFF with 2 P's. To my left, we have Graphic Dan Thury at Thury BFF on Twitter.
With 2 F's.
If you're watching on YouTube.
I am at Nick Sparts. One last shout out to Sam Lane at FF Stompy, and we'll catch you guys next time.
On
Beer Fueled Fantasy
Football. I'm not
Football.
as in sync with you as Dan is. See ya.
Later.